Aloha everybody and welcome to the extra video of Megaman Legends. So I mentioned before that Megaman actually has a morality system and it actually changes his armor from regular color to dark armor by doing some rather dickish things. So I decided to take a look at that and do a second playthrough being the most evil, the most mischievous, the most dick Megaman I could possibly be. You know that junk shop owner guy? I kept kicking him when I found him in the ruins. I don't know if that actually affects your morality, but I still kept kicking him. You know those cans in the apple market? I kept kicking those into the jet-lag bakery to get extra 1,000 zennies. I kept littering, and I kept putting cans in there, and it made me so evil. One thing you can do is that when you go to the vending machines, you can actually push circle in order to buy a soda and drink it to refill your health. But another thing you can do is kick the vending machine, and sometimes when you kick the vending machine, a soda will fall out and it will give you a free drink that you can refill your health with. Other times, you kick the machine and it will actually damage the vending machine. And then if you kick it one more time, the vending machine explodes. And this explosion is actually considered vandalism and it affects Mega Man's morality in a big way. In fact, I would say the vending machines are the best way in the game to become evil because every time you leave an area, the vending machines come back. They respawn. And you can just keep kicking them over and over and over again, keep destroying them over and over and over again, and your armor will go down really, really quickly. When the Bonds are attacking City Hall, one of the airships flying in the sky is the reporters from the Catalog's TV station, and although they give you hints like the good people they are, we could still aim at them and shoot at them in order to cause an explosion, and that will lower your morality as well. And even though this doesn't affect your morality, during the Tron Bon and City Hall boss fights, I decided to let the enemies destroy pretty much every building in the area, and I decided that I was not going to pay a single dime to City Hall in order to repair any of the damage. If I was going to be a pure evil Mega Man, I wanted Catalog's Island crushed to the ground, goddammit. And, yeah. It's pretty amazing how much destruction Tron Bon can cause with her giant machine. The only building that's left standing downtown is the library, and that's only because it can't be obliterated completely.
Mission complete?
Megaman, would you be willing to explore the caves and dungeons on the island and see if you can find anything?
What? And you call yourself a digger? How can you turn down an offer like that? What? And you call your... What?
In the side quest where the Servbots are accused of robbing the bank, as I said before, when you destroy the Servbot's car and then collect the trunk of cash, you can hand it to the inspector and be a good person and get your 20,000 zenny reward, or you can totally leave and capture 200,000 zenny. This automatically makes your armor the darkest it can be, by the way. I guess this is considered one of the most evil things you can do. I mean, you are essentially robbing Catalog's Island, after all. But other than that, I don't remember too many occasions where I could be a dick Mega Man. Honestly, I just spent my time destroying vending machines, and what I found was, simply by playing the story mode and finding all the refractors, your armor actually starts to lighten up a little bit. I guess defeating Reaverbots makes you a lot better of a person, supposedly. So I actually had to keep going back to those vending machines every now and then in order to keep my armor dark. The townspeople barely react to the fact that Mega Man is evil. I promise you, I kept trying to talk to all the citizens in between every single boss fight, in between every single story scene, and the only ones who seemed to react, really, were the people in the uptown buildings who you spy in by examining their doors. They tell their kids, you know, that blue boy is a bad man, you stay away from him, and stuff like that, but none of the citizens actually confront you and tell you that you're kind of a troublemaker, you know? Even when I beat the entire game, I defeated Mega Man Juno, and we're in the epilogue scene, and I'm trying to say goodbye to everyone in Catalog's Island, every building's destroyed downtown. Like the place was massacred by Tron Bon, and I didn't repay any of the damages. I didn't help with any of the side quests. The girl's still in the wheelchair, I didn't help the girl with her painting, you know, the pregnant wife was still lost in the field, and I guess her husband found her, but it wasn't my fault. I talked to everyone after defeating Mega Man Juno, and they're still celebrating the fact that I saved the island, and they don't have one bad thing to say about me, which is kind of interesting. I was expecting a lot more backlash. I was expecting a lot more flavor text where people call out Mega Man for being a dick. But just like the story cutscenes themselves, nothing is really affected. Again, the only thing that changes about this is that you might be a little bit richer, and your armor will definitely be darker. So that is Dark Armor Mega Man, that is Evil Mega Man in action. There's really not much more to say about it. So that's all I have to say about the PlayStation version of Mega Man Legends, but now I'm going to be talking about the Nintendo 64 version of Mega Man Legends, aka Mega Man 64. Haha, where did the other 50 go? Ha ha ha, yeah, I know, we all made that joke. This game came out in January of 2001, whereas Mega Man Legends on the PlayStation came out in 1998. This game literally came out after The Misadventures of Tron Bonne and after Mega Man Legends 2. It is a little odd for this port to have come out in 2001, considering that the GameCube was right around the corner and the N64 was pretty much at the end of its lifespan. If all the other Legends games were already out on the PlayStation, why did they bother taking a chance on this? A little odd, but hey, here we are. So I'm going to be honest, guys, if I had to recommend one version over the other, it would absolutely be the PlayStation version. The Nintendo 64 version is just inferior in almost every way. It feels like the beta version of what Legends became, even though this game came out like 2 or 3 years after the original. The cutscenes sound kind of horrible. I mean, with the N64, they still brought in all the voice acting that the game has, and this is cartridges and not CDs, but the voice compression is so bad, all of their voices sound muffled, and sometimes it can be really hard to understand what they're saying.
Phew. Nice timing, Roll.
Anytime, Mega Man. I'm sorry, Mega Man. I had some engine problems, and...
It's okay, Roll. But I'm glad you showed up when you did.
Hey, you! Thanks to you, everything's a mess now, isn't it?
Huh? Aren't you the girl who's being chased by that dog?
Shut up!
I'll use my ultimate digging machine, the Marvel, to dig up the treasure myself. And I won't let any little blue boy get in my way either.
The carbon fit mass population model B. They are unstable, very difficult to control. Perhaps it would be better to simply reinitialize.
Reinitialize? I haven't understood much of what you've been saying, but...
In terms of cutscenes, some of the stuff feels a little bit off, and some of it feels a little bit different. Like, I noticed for sure that Tron Bonne says a line differently in one scene than she did in the PlayStation version, so they must have used a different voice clip.
Wait! That mark!
Teasel, you better not be eating that entire pizza yourself.
Teasel, you better not be eating that entire pizza yourself.
And in another instance, after Mega Man Juno shows himself, the bonds poke out, and this is what Tron says right away.
Did you hear that, Teasel?
Yep. Something tells me he's not kidding either.
But in the N64 version, this is what she says.
It's a man? A person?
Yep. Something tells me he's not kidding either.
Yeah, they reused one of Mega Man's earlier lines, and for some reason put it on Tron. So Tron was just talking like Mega Man for some reason. This is not emulated. I am playing an authentic Nintendo 64. This is actually how the game is. In terms of visuals, well folks, I hope you like fog in your Catalox Island, because the draw distance is much worse than it is on the PlayStation, and most of the time when you're running around the giant fields and stuff, especially during downtown and in the city hall areas, everything is just one big white fog, and most buildings don't really pop in until you walk right up to them. It's amazing when you're in City Hall and you're just in the middle of the area and you're just trying to look at where the police station is or where the bank is, and there's just nothing there. And when you start walking towards that area, all of a sudden this polygonal model starts coming into frame, and then you can back up and it's gone, go forward and there it is, and back up and oh, it's gone. The draw distance is pretty bad, and the frame rate as well is really, really slow. I found during most action scenes it was running at a pretty slow rate, whereas the PlayStation version is never really slow, ever. Even when heavy activity was going on in the PlayStation version, the frames never really dropped, and it never felt like there was much slowdown or lag or anything. But that happens all the time in the Nintendo 64 version. Just like the minute you get out of the flutter and you're just in the Carden Forest, you know, you can tell that like the forest and everything is just making everything so much slower than it has to be, and it's a little jarring when you've played the PlayStation version so much like I have. The one issue I was expecting to have when I played this game was the controls, because there aren't 4 shoulder buttons on the Nintendo 64 controller, and the N64 controller has 3 handles, so if you want to play with an analog stick, which is possible with this version, you know, all of a sudden reaching the L button is going to be a lot harder, and if you're playing with the control pad, which is also an option with this version, then you can't reach the Z button and stuff. So I was wondering how they were going to handle the lock-on situation with so many limited buttons, and the way they got around that was, now the 2 strafe buttons are used to do lock-on. So you hold L, you move left. You hold Z, you move left. You hold R, you move right. But if you hold L and R or Z and R, then you do lock-on. And that acts exactly as it did in the PlayStation version. You can't move when you're locked on, but you have to push 2 buttons at the same time in order to activate it. This can be a little bit annoying, as I found during the Marlwolf fight, because like I always do in the Marlwolf fight, I get to the edge of a cliff in order to shoot the Servbot with the bomb and knock it into the machine just from the edge of the cliff, you know? So I don't have to jump on top of the machine, so I could just be just the right distance away. And what happened was, in order to manual aim, I gotta go into lock-on mode. I gotta push L and R at the same time, but then I pushed L just a little bit before R, and so what happens is, Mega Man starts moving left and not standing still. He starts moving in directions I don't want him to go, and I found the Marlwolf fight a little bit trickier because I accidentally kept flinging myself off the cliff when I didn't really want to. So the N64 has limited buttons, making the lock-on not only delayed, it takes like an extra second for it to activate because you're registering 2 buttons, but you can also screw up your movements sometimes where you push R or L or Z earlier than the other button, and you just go walking somewhere, and then you lock on. So it can get you out of position, and it can make it slightly slower than it has to be, and it's really the only problem with the control I had. I found it really comfortable using the A, B, bottom C, left C buttons in order to do everything else. It still feels the same in terms of control as the PlayStation version, aside from the lock-on. So I was comfortable with the N64 controller during that stuff, but yeah, the lock-on is not ideal. I would rather have that be its own button. I would rather have that be R2, like it is in the PlayStation version. But for the most part, Mega Man 64 is basically the same game. I mean, it sounds worse, it looks worse, it has some awkward control scheme with the lock-on, but for the most part, it's the exact same game. The exact same boss fights, the exact same story. They don't have any bonus features. They might change some of the posters in town to be a little bit low-res and different. I know when you go to Apple Market, the game in the bin is no longer Mega Man Legends, but now it is Mega Man 64. Haha! When you go into the CD shop, you can't listen to music anymore. They took that out of the N64 version. That is only in the PlayStation version. In Uptown, there was a building where a girl was standing next to, which was a game developer's building. And she says she wants to be a game developer like the people there, so she can play games like Resident Evil. Wink wink, Capcom, you know? But in the N64 version, that building is completely gone. And the only reason I can think of is because they didn't want to reference Resident Evil, because it's a PlayStation game and it's not on the Nintendo 64. But even that doesn't make sense to me, because Resident Evil 2 was on the N64, and Resident Evil 2 came out before Mega Man Legends on the N64. So all they really had to do was add the number 2 to it, and it would still apply to the Nintendo 64, but if that's not the reason, you know, it's just worth mentioning, Uptown's missing a building. The game developer's building is gone, and the girl no longer references Resident Evil. Another interesting kind of change was that after the Gesellschaft boss fight, you go into Roll's room, and it's the same thing as the PlayStation version. You catch her dressing, you see her naked, Mega Man feels all awkward and stuff, and then the scene changes a little bit.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? Whoops. Get out of here now! Next time, knock before opening the door. Sorry, Roll.
Mega Man just did a fist bump. This This doesn't happen in the PlayStation version. This is a Nintendo 64 thing. When he sees Roll naked, he fist bumps in success. I am not making this up. This actually happens. Wow. And I guess I have one last thing to comment on when it comes to Mega Man 64, and that's the end credits theme. In the original PlayStation version, they had this original piece of music, along with a whole bunch of voice clips from all the different cutscenes in the game. But in the N64 version, they just use the Catalog's TV station theme, the hospital theme, if you will, for the end credits. And it doesn't fit at all, and it's really repetitive, and that's completely baffling to me. Could you imagine if you're playing The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and then right after you beat it, the end credits are just playing one of the house themes? Look, I'm not saying Mega Man 64 is a god-awful game. The gameplay is still intact. The gameplay still feels exactly the same, minus the lock-on issues I had earlier. I mean, the boss fights don't feel particularly cheap or easier or anything. It's still Mega Man Legends, only on the N64. I'm telling you, Legends is a great game, and if you choose to get this on the 64, you're still going to have a fun enough time, but definitely, after playing it, I just noticed a whole bunch of errors, a whole bunch of problems, a whole bunch of inferior visuals and graphics and sounds and stuff that I just felt like you definitely need to play the PlayStation version. I don't know why this port exists. This came out at a time when Mega Man X6 had just arrived on the PlayStation, and I don't know if the same developers were responsible for this game, and they just don't know what the hell they're doing, but, I mean, it's still a playable game, so I'm just kind of over-exaggerating, but either way. That's Mega Man 64, ladies and gentlemen, and if you choose to get it, you know, you were warned about all that stuff, so yeah. So that's pretty much it for Mega Man Legends. While I just mentioned that the N64 version had a different ending theme, the Japanese version of Mega Man Legends actually has a J-pop theme song, just like a lot of the PlayStation Mega Man games did, like with Mega Man 8 and Electrical Communication and stuff, you know? They always took out J-pop whenever they were localizing a Mega Man game and bringing it to North America, so I figured that for this extra video, I would play the Japanese ending music for Rockman Dash, which is Mega Man Legends in Japan, and we'll close out with that. So yeah, folks, that's Mega Man Legends, and coming up next, we're going to see the misadventures of Tron Bonne. Till next time.
to